Hi, I'm excited to bring you this episode of The Art Biz with artist Samra Bashir. Samra is a glass artist, not that kind of glass artist. She paints on glass. It's from her Islamic and South Asian heritage. Samra is also a translator and community liaison. And in this episode, she talks about how all of these different roles feed off of one another. They inform her art. Her art helps her connect with the community. And I think you'll find something really powerful in here for you, a powerful lesson about connecting with your community. Some ideas for you there at the end. Please enjoy this conversation with Samra Bashir. Hi, Samra. Welcome to the Art Biz.
Thank you, Alyson. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So glad that you're here. Tell everyone a little bit about your journey to this point, your journey as an artist.
It all started when I was around 22 years old and I was a young mom. I was navigating an unhappy marriage. And what happened that I went to a family friend and she was painting on glass right at that moment. So it reminded me that my love for stained glass. And I just came back home. I bought my supplies and I started painting.
So wait, can we add something that I don't think you mentioned? You were in Pakistan at the time.
Yeah. I was in Pakistan, Karachi, Pakistan. The story started from there. And then 15 years ago, we moved to US and Chicago. And so at that point, my painting practice totally stopped because, we were new immigrants. We were trying to figure out life and stuff. And then I think after a few years, I started again, like maybe 10, 11 years ago. I just started again. I was painting as an escape again, because at that time it was a different scenario and different everything. But then I started posting on Facebook, my personal Facebook. And there are people, my cousins, my family, and my friends, they were encouraging me. And then there was a cousin who told me that, why don't you open a shop on Etsy? And I had no idea about Etsy at that point. So I opened my shop and people were liking it. They wanted to buy the art. And I was mostly painting patterns and, Islamic art, calligraphy, which I was copying. I didn't know how to do calligraphy. I would just take from Islamic manuscripts and I would just paint on glass. So I think that is how it started. Yep.
So I'm going to say this for people that didn't understand your accent. Calligraphy is what you were talking about. That's how we would say it. Or I could get my Okie accent on and really draw it out if I wanted to.
No, you're right. English is not my first language. So
no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But I just want to make sure that everyone knows, so that they can picture your work. What do you enjoy about painting on glass? What is it that you like about that?
So I would say that my love for stained glass, it all started from that. I was born in Kuwait and I was raised in Pakistan. So I had a few, we lived in Kuwait for a few years. So, the Islamic art and architecture came from there. And then I was around 6 or 7 when we moved back to Pakistan. And my dad, he would come home during vacations because he was living in Kuwait at that point. And he would take us to road trips around different Pakistan villages and different old, areas. So they would have stained glass or colored glass in the windows of those architecture. They were like pre-partition or colonial era workshops. Workshops. I meant the houses and buildings. So I was always inspired by that, the glass. And I think more than the colors, the thing that inspired me most was the reflection, the light. Oh. And I think I somehow felt very spiritual about that. So I think that was the point that I always wanted to, whenever I thought that I would paint on glass. And I think that's how it all started. So if I have to talk about my work, I would just say that it celebrates my roots. It celebrates my culture. And I paint using glass paints on glass. And light is the non-physical medium of my work. Because when I paint, I keep that in mind, that with the light, the colors would change. And it would look different in different lighting in different situations. So the parts that are not being painted would look different and would give different kind of reflection than the parts which are painted. And I use a lot of, because I'm South Asian, so I use a lot of South Asian traditional patterns and different Islamic art into my art.
Okay. Okay. So if someone were to own your work, does it need to be backlit?
No, no. So
No.
since it's glass, so it doesn't have to be backlit, but I have made a few paintings that were not backlit, but they were painted on a floating frame. So if you put it just like stained glass on the window, it would give a different kind of effect. So at this time, I use glass as a canvas. So when the light gives a reflection of light and it gives a different kind of, it transports you into a different kind of world because it giving off a dynamic kind of look.
Yeah. So it doesn't need to have it already does that inherently. It doesn't need the backlighting in order to fully appreciate it.
No, because the paints I use, they are special glass paints. They are liquid oil paints and they are very transparent. And I make
Yeah.
them more transparent in order to get that effect.
I see. I see. Because you've mentioned it, because it's so key to your work, how is your work informed by your cultural heritage and your personal experiences?
So I would say that when I moved to US and I started painting again, it was a totally different experience from when I was back in Pakistan. In Pakistan, when I was painting the stained glass designs and patterns, and I was practicing more on that. But when I moved here, I was missing my home country so much. There was so much nostalgia that I wanted to paint things that could, that I could relate to my culture and my country. So all started from there, and then I started painting from Arabic calligraphy because I wanted to have that in my house, and I wanted to see that, and I want to because it felt very spiritual. It's like something that there are phrases in Arabic that has helped me in my personal situations a lot. When I would read them, I would feel better and stuff like that. So I started painting through that. And for other things, for my South Asian patterns that I have been painting, that comes from, I would say that I wanted to bridge the traditional and the modern things so that people who are not aware, because it's a non-Western thing and I live in a Western country, so the people who don't know about these things can have at least an idea about these patterns and these traditions.
Fascinating. So, because of the nature of the work, have you had a difficult time finding your audience?
In the beginning, it was because it was a very limited kind of audience, people who knew me or people who were especially, I think, maybe typing in search and Etsy around Islamic art or South Asian art. But then slowly, when I started connecting with community more, when I started going out and meeting more people, I think the audience grew like that because especially when I do workshops and I teach the painting, there are a lot of people who are not from my culture, but they would somehow connect with the art, with the traditions, then they would enjoy that. And this is how I think my audience grew. And of course, through social media also.
I see. I do want to talk about your workshops and we'll get to that. But are there specific obstacles that you've had to overcome? Like, are you finding yourself having to over explain things, avoiding certain topics?
I would say yes, but I think my passion for my art is so much that when I talk about it and when I paint about that people, and I think my art is more about storytelling, about informing people about other cultural traditions. So when I post, or I also try to inform people about the history or the background of the elements I have used in my painting. So I think I usually don't do that.
Yeah, I got it.
I might have to do that I don't remember right now, but yeah.
I love that. All right. You mentioned that you started growing an audience on Instagram, on you said social media, I think.
Mhm.
What are the ways that you are promoting your art currently, since this is the art biz?
Yeah. So I started with Facebook because it was during 2011 or 2012, I think. I don't even remember having Instagram at that point. So I started posting through Facebook and on Etsy and on different Facebook groups, and that was working really good for me at that time. People would just buy on Facebook group my paintings. And then Instagram came, and then so now I post on Instagram. I have my websites, and I think the more connections and the more audience I have gotten through my exhibitions, connecting with people. And I do a lot of workshops with different platforms like libraries and stuff. So from there also. And of course, social media. Yeah.
Gotcha. I think we're going to talk more about that, those community connections. But before we go there, you were divorced 5 years ago and you went back to work full time 4 years ago as a graphic designer. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. What has that transition been like for you?
So,
Okay.
yeah. So 5 years ago, I decided to take charge of my life. And I started working full time after divorce. Divorce was still in the process, and it wasn't easy because I was a single mother of two teenage kids. And I went back. I was working part time before that, but then I started working as a graphic designer full time. And I was an artist also. So it wasn't easy, but I received a lot of support from the community, from my family who were outside of America, but still. And my art was always an escape, and it helped me in navigating a lot of things. I went back to school. That's another story, but that was very, very helpful for me.
Gotcha. You went to art school.
I did. I never took an art class during my school years. I wasn't teaching all the time. After divorce, during divorce, and during pandemic, I decided because I wanted to learn so much about art, especially Western art, since I was taking a lot of classes about the art that I was doing on my paintings, like Islamic art and stuff. So I went back to school to get a bachelor's in studio arts.
You said your community has lifted you up, and I know that community is so important to you. Talk more about that.
So I do not have immediate family here in America. And I do have my extended family over here, and they're very helpful and stuff. But still, when the divorce was in process, I initially thought to go back to Pakistan because I thought I'll be alone over here. So when I say, especially for this instance, that I received a lot of support from communities from through my work, through generally from the support services that are available over here. I went to therapy, the lawyers, and everything related to that. So I was already working as an interpreter. I'm a certified interpreter also. So I was connecting with the community a lot, and my work is also related to that. Yeah, I think that's why it's important for me.
Hey, Alyson, popping in here to tell you about, just very briefly, my program, Essentials for Artist Success. It is for you if you are an artist like Samra who wishes to increase their visibility, who wants to perhaps sell more art, who really wants to elevate your art in the whole art market. My Essentials for Artist Success will give you the foundational knowledge that you can use over and over and over again throughout your art career. But we'll also give you the support while you're learning, while we can help you tweak and expand and grow. Check it out at artbizsuccess.com/essentials. You said that, and forgive me if I am jumping to conclusion about what you meant, but it sounded to me like you were finding more community, building up more community through your art, through the work that you're doing with your art, that's helpful for you to find community in this Western culture.
So that's a great question. And I think that's true because when I started, I wanted to paint things that are related to my culture, and I wanted to inform people about it. But what happened that when I started painting and I posting it online, I got a lot of community connecting with me because they were either from the same community or either they loved the art that I was posting about it. So they would just connect with me, and that helped me a lot in building a lot of community and audience.
I love that for every artist to realize that they can find community. A lot of artists would rather be alone, but that they can find more fulfillment by connecting with more people in their communities. Don't you think?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right because when we paint, we are in isolation. That's how we paint, right? But the more connections we make, the more we go out and meet people, whether they are from my own culture or not. But I think the building the community is so important for growing your audience
Yeah.
and for being an artist.
Yeah. And finding fulfillment. I mean, you're
Yeah,
happier when you share your art with more people. I know my art is this and working with artists, and the more artists I get to touch, the better it is. So you've mentioned that you are an artist, you are a community liaison, you're a translator. I assume the translator part comes into play in the community liaison.
yes.
That's where that is. And a workshop leader. You're a full-time graphic designer. Are you paid for all of those roles?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I have been a community liaison for a high school district for like 8, 9 years. And I went back to a full-time job as a graphic designer 4 years ago. So my main job is my graphic designing job, full-time job. And then community liaison is a part-time job, which I do usually either online or in evenings or sometimes on the weekend. And my art is like I usually do it on weekends, or as I think I didn't mention that, but my commute to my work is an hour-long commute in the morning and in the evenings. So that's a sacred time for me. In the mornings, so I don't talk to anyone during that time. And in the morning, I plan my day or any projects that I want to do, and I use the text to speech feature on my phone. So I'm usually talking to myself in the car and take notes about that, or I would just record myself. So I have an idea of what am I doing that day. And in the evenings, it's usually processing the day, how it was. And that's the time when I hear a lot of podcasts. Usually it's yours and any music or anything like that. So by the time I'm home, I'm relaxed. I've processed my day and I have time. So usually I will do my emails or a planning of project or, workshop things and stuff like that. But I usually paint on the weekends.
Gotcha. Because you need longer stretches of time for that than you have
Yes.
in the
Yes,
evenings.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's talk just briefly about your workshops. Who are they for and what do you teach?
Yeah, so I think my workshops are the most important part of my art because I see my paintings more as like, of course, they're fulfillment for me, they're an escape for me, but I think I take it more like as for an educational type of thing. So my workshops is like I try to do mostly at libraries, at schools or universities where students could come and they could about my art and I teach them Islamic art. So I teach them how to paint glass painting. And the patterns I usually choose Islamic geometric patterns because they are structured in a way that it's very easy for them to paint in the limited amount of time they have. And during that time, I also do a presentation where I would teach them about the pattern, about the meaning of the pattern, and where the pattern came from. Usually, Islamic architecture or a monument or somewhere about that. And then I would also teach them how to express themselves. It doesn't have to be glass painting, but everyone should be able to create or do something to express themselves. It could be writing, it could be any form of art. So that's the basic of my workshops.
Are they artists who attend your workshop?
They can be, but it's usually for just general public because it's usually from a basic point of view. I don't expect them to have a artistic background because I teach them everything. And people are very intimidated and they are very scared to come and just start painting because they usually don't have an artistic background. Sometimes there are a lot of artists also who come in who want to learn glass paintings.
How long are they?
The workshops are usually 2 hours long.
Okay.
They can go
Gotcha.
longer if people want to stay and they want to paint and they.
Yeah, that's not very long. So it sounds to me like it's like an introduction, but the most important part to you is the sharing of your culture. And it sounds like also the encouragement for the creative outlet for people.
Yes. And it's also
Yeah.
a lot about a lot happening in schools, in libraries. So a lot of youth, a lot of a lot of younger people come to learn. And I want the youth to have, more ideas about these things, about different cultures, and to learn how to just embrace.
So it is for not necessarily for South Asian population.
No, it's because
They already know that stuff.
no, they do. And there are a lot of South Asian people who come. But when I promote it or whoever is hosting me, so for example, if I have done a lot of workshops at the library and they do invite me during Islamic Heritage Month or South Asian Heritage Month, stuff like that. But when the patrons, the people who come to attend the workshops, they are from all the backgrounds. And somehow they always have a connection with it. They always come to me and they would always share that, they saw someone doing painting on glass or in their culture, this color, because I talk a lot about the meaning of the colors also. In different cultures, they have different meanings of different colors. So something they connect with something, and I just love connecting with people who attend workshops and talk about art.
Yes, in person, right?
Yeah.
In real life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have, and this may not be a question that goes anywhere, but do you have any story about a student having a breakthrough or that you broke through cultural barriers or cultivated connections among people at one of your workshops?
Yeah, I think it happens a lot. And I was the first time it happens, I was really surprised because just like the question you asked, when I started the workshop first time, it was my first workshop was at the library, and it was during program that I was doing through my community liaison job. It was called Coming Together, and the program was called Coming Together, Celebrating Muslims in America. So this is how it started, the first workshop. And I was expecting only Muslims or only South Asians coming to, but there were people from other backgrounds who came and who were so interested in that. And so the story is this, that I recently did a presentation for a portfolio day for an art department in a high school. And there were a group of art students in the class, and I was doing a demo for my painting, and I was doing a presentation also. After the presentation, there were a few students who came to me. One was a Pakistani student, a same background as me, and he just came and he was like, he felt so seen because he said no one ever from our culture or our background came and gave a presentation related to visual arts. There was a second student who I think was a Middle Eastern. She said the same thing. She said that she knew, I think her grandmother or someone used to paint on glass, and she was just loving it. And there were some other students who were not even related to me, my culture, or anything related to that, but they were talking about the patterns that I shared, that it's also, in their culture also. And they followed me on Instagram, and then they connected with me again, and they were like, they wanted to do a project with glass paints, and they wanted my help on that. So I helped them out. So there are a lot of stories like this that happens during my workshops and presentations.
It's very rewarding, isn't it? What do you want students to get from your workshops?
I think when I started, it was a different story. I wanted them to learn about glass paintings, about my background, or different kind of cultural thing. But I think the more I'm doing it, the more I'm learning about it, and I think I want the youth, especially, to learn how to express themselves, how to take pride in themselves, whatever culture they belong to, and whatever their identity is, and be more inclusive of all the other cultures and of all the other kind of human beings around there.
It is a tall order, and we're really lucky that artists are fulfilling a lot of those roles these days because we need more of that bringing us together, reminding us that we're not all that different.
Yeah, I think art doesn't have any barriers, no doors, no windows. Like people just connect with each other just on the basis of being an artist.
Yeah. So we talked about the value of building stronger community connections. And I want to just get briefly into what that means. Like for you, it was looking for like using your skills, your language skills to become a sounds to me like maybe that was the first step, like offering language skills, translation skills.
Yes.
If you have one of those skills, where did you go? Who did you talk to become a community liaison?
So it started as a parent. My kids were in, I think, elementary at that time, and the school was starting a program where they needed individuals who speak a different language, especially those who were community or the language. They needed help a lot in that specific area where I used to live. They were offering a course, certified course for being an interpreter. So that's how it all started. And it was through that I was able to work with a lot of public offices, hospitals, and I saw a lot of people, a lot of immigrants, having support through them, through for their languages and stuff. So that's how it started.
So it started through the school, and then how did you get connected with the public offices? Did the school say, we've got a translator over here, or did you reach out to them?
No, I never reached out to them. It's usually them because when we were doing the course, there was a requirement that we had to do a 40 hours of shadow work. So they would send us to different these organizations where we would shadow another interpreter. And then through their systems, they still invite us. They not invite us. They still want us to come and do translations or interpreting for them. I don't do that a lot now because I don't have that much time now. So, but I still try to help as much as I can. And it's always a paid job.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So for someone who's not an interpreter, who doesn't speak another language, and they want to explore something similar, like how they could help in their community, whether it's at schools or hospitals or whatever, do you have any steps or suggestions for them?
I would say that as an artist, I have reached out to a lot of libraries, a lot of universities. I send them my website page about the workshops, and I'm an artist. So I send them that information, and I would tell them that if you want me to come and do a presentation about my art, I would be available. So I think I am the one who's reaching out. And once they know you, once they know that you're in the community, then they will reach out to you by themselves.
Yeah.
So, like for the library who reached out to me, that's how they found out because I reached out to them.
Gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
think did I answer your question correctly?
Yes. Yes. Well, there's no right or wrong answer. And I didn't even know if it was going to lead anywhere. I just kind of sprung that on you. But I wonder, it seems to me like that's something you have to do. Here's the business coach in me. That's something you have to do repeatedly, like several times a year, because turnover, because they're just new people, and who knows what they did with your first one. They didn't know what to do with it. They don't have a place to file things anymore. They don't have a good system. I know you and I both love systems. And so it seems to me like that's a regular part of someone who wants workshop gigs within the community.
Yes, I would say that, and that's where the part comes from that I started working full time 4 years ago. So now I do not have that much time. But when I wasn't working full time before that, I have set up my systems. I have everything, everything mostly in my Google Drive, where I have the workshop, things available that I would send to the people who might be interested, where I would want to go and teach the workshops. So I do that, I would say once a year, that I would collect the information and then I would email them. And sometimes they do reach out, sometimes they don't. And I think it's a continuous thing to do. And once you have everything in the system is there, like that, that's what I learned from you also. And I think the first time I learned it through your book, that's how I found you back in 2013 or 14, that I
Oh,
found your
wow.
book in the library, and then I bought that book, and that helped me a lot in systems, and to know that if I have something set aside, it would be easy for me to reach out to people years after years.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you for that plug. If only the book were still available, but you could probably find it somewhere these days. So if someone listening today was like, I really like the idea of being more connected to my community. I'm not an interpreter. I, don't want, I don't know if I want to do workshops. I just want to get to the basis of making more community connections. Do you have a step that you think they should take, the first step?
I would say that besides being an interpreter, I also do a lot of other community connections. Like I would go to different galleries, different libraries whenever they're exhibiting something, and I would just go and just meet people over there. A lot of art schools have their fine art galleries where they do a lot of the student exhibitions. I go to that a lot whenever I can get a chance. And recently, I've done a few pop up events at like Vestel, Macy's. And so sometimes I do reach them out. And if I'm going there for shopping, I would just talk to them. I would just tell them that I'm an artist. This is what I do. And I will just give them my card. I think it's a lot of
Wait,
about.
wait, 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 wait. When do you just say I'm an artist and give them your card when you're just shopping?
Yeah. So, for example, if I'm going to a furniture store or related to my art, and we're talking about something, and like, about their product that I want to buy, and it's related to my art. So I don't know why I just do this, that I have to talk about my art. I just can't stop, and I have to bring that up, that I do this also. And that's why I'm interested in, this, getting this piece for myself or as a gift. And that's how the connection builds up. And then we keep talking about that. And I would just tell them that I do, I can do exhibitions, I can do pop-ups, I do commissions. And if you're
What do you mean
interested.
by pop up? How are you using that phrase right now?
So there are some stores, like I did 2 pop-ups last year through at Westel Furniture Store and at Macy's. So I don't know if they did previously or not, but there are some malls and some furniture stores which is related to interior designing that they invite artists or who could come and do a small pop-up event where they can bring their art and people can just buy if they want to.
They give you a space in the store to display your art, and then do they take a percentage of it, or?
No, they don't take. They have
Got
never
it.
taken a percentage from
Okay.
me, but that's what they do. Just like, you have art fairs, but for art fairs there are a lot of other artists also. This is just for 1 or 2 artists.
Got it. Do you handle all the sales that happen in those?
Yes.
And
Um,
have you sold? Let me ask you that. Have you sold in a pop up?
I did. And I
Yay.
have received a lot of commissions also. Just recently, the one I did, I painted a koi fish. Koi fish is in a pond. And I just painted because I love koi fishes. And there was a visitor. He came and he was just astonished looking at me that I'm not from his culture. I still painted that. And he explained me the symbolism and the meaning behind it. And he asked me if I can make a commission, a larger size, the similar painting, but in a larger size for him. So I think a lot of connection builds up from there also. And that's why I
Yeah.
do it, because I like to see when people see my art, what are
Yeah.
they taking away from that? And then we start talking about that.
It's so important to get out from behind the computer screen and do that. You just don't ever know how people are responding until you are there in person.
Yes.
It's
And it was
magical.
harder for me in the beginning, especially with because I have an accent. My English is not my first language. But I think it's getting easier and easier the more I'm doing it now.
Yeah. 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 Sounds like you're ready to talk to people about your art, and that at the drop of a hat, and that it's so meaningful to you that it makes it a little easier, and that the message, the sharing is just fulfills you in so many ways. It completes the work.
It does. And I
Yeah.
think going back to school helped me a lot in that. I was
It-
always
to be more
afraid
confident.
to be. I was always afraid of calling myself as an artist because I thought that I've never learned art. And so just not because of that, but I did receive a lot of support from there. I am an oil painting major, and the school helped me a lot in a lot of things, mainly the confidence. I am trying to create more and more awareness about South Asian art and about Islamic art. And so I have started series on my Instagram where I post about these elements that I'm using in my painting, in my art, and what they mean about that. And then more workshop, more art, and more connecting to people in person.
Thanks for watching this episode with Samra Bashir. I hope it inspires you to reach out to someone, anyone in your community, whether it's another artist, whether it's someone who might have a venue for you. You never know where those connections might lead. And if you're brave like Samra, whip out your business card and share it with someone. If you would ever rather listen to the podcast than watch it here, check us out at artbizpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We don't have all of our podcasts on videos, so you might find some real treasures when you go to artbizpodcast.com. Things that you haven't seen here.